You might ask yourself, what the heck are we doing in this parking lot? Well, this unassuming building used to be the home of Nystrom Motors, a local Plymouth dealer in Boone, Iowa. Every car has its journey. In 1965, our Plymouth started its journey here.
Got it.
All right, so go right ahead.
So this is my 1965 Plymouth Sport Fury. This is a father-son project. We started this in the year 2000. We finished it in 2015. It was a combination of he and I's work, so we had a lot of fun doing it. This car was purchased originally brand new in Boone, Iowa, and I'm the second owner. When I found the car, it was parked behind a barn. Been there for 20 years, and it was a definite mouse hotel. My wife wouldn't let it anywhere close to any living space because it smelled terrible. So we put it in the barn and we tore it apart out there, and once we got it sandblasted and the smell went away, she let us bring it back into where we could work on it. But we got 3 different cars to build this. So it's a combination of many different parts because 20 years out in the weather, stuff was pretty rough, and it was an Iowa car from day one, so the salt had done its number on it. The son and I did 90% of all the work. We did all the mechanics, we did all the body work, we painted it ourselves. So basically everything you see, we've done, we've touched, every nut, bolt, and screw, we know where it's at and how it's been put together. So it's been a labor of love, and the interesting part is as we start in the front, a big old boat car, 5,000-pound automobile, original. It's got the original 383 Commando in it. It was originally from the factory, a factory 4-speed car, big block 4-speed. Well, we restomodded it, so we put fuel injection on the 383. It does have the original block, but you know, fancy heads and all that stuff, and fuel injection. And then we put a 5-speed transmission behind it. So it's got the hydraulic clutch and the whole bit. The rear end is the original 323 geared Sure Grip posi. We just completely rebuilt it. Everything's been off and redone.
Get an idea. Yeah.
So under the hood, like I said, it's the original 383 Commando block. Massaged heads, the flight port job, not huge. Fast fuel injection on it. We put the biggest radiator in and the most fans we could because big blocks tend to run hot. This one's a parade car. It actually runs cooler in a parade than it does down the road. So we're really happy with the way it performs. We powder coated all the parts that you see, the intake manifold. We actually powder coated that in-house. Got an old electric oven and powder coated it. If you notice on the stainless steel brake lines coming off the master cylinder, there's a Mopar M. Now that Mopar M was hand bent into stainless steel lines. There's a trick to that. You actually do it, you fill them full of water and you freeze them. And you make a mold and you bend a little bit and put them back in the freezer. So it's not a quick process, but it's pretty impressive when you get done.
I've seen people do that, try to do that with, they fill them with like sugar and stuff. I've seen that before, but you can't do anything real tight that way.
Water works perfect. Yeah. So we actually had the motor dynoed with a carburetor before we put it in. The cam broke in and all that. And with the carburetor on it, it dynoed at 429 horse. So we figure with the fast fuel injection, we're probably gaining about another 20. So we're guessing we're probably about 450 horse. The trip we did yesterday was about 155 miles. We used 10 gallons of gas. So overall, we got about 15 miles a gallon. I don't think that's too bad for a...
It's respectable for a big block.
Big block, yep. And I didn't keep my foot out of it, so I wasn't doing granny stuff. Interesting part, all of the trim around the middle of the car, so if it's midline and it goes around the car, it's aluminum.
Okay.
And we straightened I hand polished all that trim down to 3,000 grit wet dry, and then mother's polish. And then once I had it all polished, I built a crate, sent it off, and had it re-anodized, because I didn't want to polish it the rest of my life.
And it's clear anodized, right?
And it's clear anodized.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
The rims are Boss rims. We found on the internet spinners. The car originally came with spinner hubcaps, so we kind of wanted to put that into the detail. And the insert in the spinner is a replica of the insert that's in the spinner hubcap from the factory. We just had those remade. So they're 20-inch with the rubber band tires. The brakes, the disc brakes on this car, nobody made disc brakes for 65 Plymouth when I went looking for them. I found a company that wanted to get into that, and they said, if you send me some parts, we'll make them for you. So I got the first set of disc brakes that this company made. The cool part about it is they use all GM calipers and pads. So if something happens, if I warp one or something, I can just go to the parts store and buy parts and slap them on.
Real convenient that way.
Very convenient. Interesting part, we were down at Good Guys one time, and they had some retro rear view mirrors that have the LED turn signals in them. So we thought that would be cool. So they actually are just like the new stuff. They blink when the turn signals are on. The car, because it was set out for 20 years, from here down was gone. There was nothing. It just rotted off. So obviously you don't find body panels for a 65 Plymouth, so we made all of those, welded them in, and there was a few other places, of course, behind the front wheel and ahead of the back wheel that we had to cut out and weld in. Another interesting point, the inner wheel wells under the hood, Mopar never coated those. On the inside they were raw and they all rotted out. So we split those in half, and it took lots of patch pieces to put those back together. But lots of time in that, because you can't just go buy parts.
No, it's not a Challenger, it's not a...
Nope,
not a road
it's a C-body, and they're getting a few more C-bodies in, parts for, but you know, A's, B's, and E's, you can find every part you want.
Yeah.
But the C's are still kind of tough.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is the first year that it went to a C-body, if I remember right, isn't it?
Yes, correct.
Yeah,
Yep,
in
64 it was a B-body.
Okay.
So that Sport Fury was a B-body in 64, and 65 was the first year. In fact, the last thing I had to get was a rear window. I had a rear window, but it was green, and I didn't want a green one. I wanted a clear one. I searched the country for a clear rear window. They repop the windshield. They don't repop the rear window. And I broke the one taking it out when my razor blade caught the edge and it just went boom. So anyway, long story short, found one in Las Vegas. Guy had one for a Newport. Never been in, and I think the rear window was $300. It cost me $400 to have it shipped.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, my last episode, a guy was talking about that. He actually went and drove and got it because it was cheaper than shipping it.
Probably was, but I was still working at the time,
yeah,
so
couldn't do it.
Couldn't do it. The 1965 Plymouth Sport Fury is a one-year body style for the front and the rear. It was 2 years, 65, 66, same running gear, but they changed the front grille and the trunk in the 2 years, so they don't interchange in any way. In fact, gas tank wise, I've got a side fill on the gas tank. On the 66, it's behind the license plate, so the filler is in a totally different spot, so you can't even reuse the gas tank. You got to have a 65 gas tank. But so that means that all the tail lights and everything is a 1 year only. And of course, tail lights are notorious for being cracked and everything. Yeah. I found a set on eBay, a complete 6-piece NOS set, and yeah, it was $600. But it was one of those things, I'll never find them again, and they're still in the bag, and so bit the bullet and bought those, and and I have spares. 2015 Dodge Challenger exhaust tips with the Mopar M on the top. That's a 2.5-inch stainless steel exhaust from front to back. Schumacher Tri-Y headers on the car. It's got a pretty good rumble. It's got stainless steel glass packs on it, which I really like. It's a little loud, but I like it loud. Another little interesting trick we did, when we painted the red, white, and blue into these things, next to impossible to brush that in and not get it where you didn't want it. So we actually laid those down, and my son's diabetic, so he has all kinds of injection needles.
Yeah.
We actually pulled the paint up into the syringe and dropped that in a drop at a time.
Inject,
And just let it flow.
Yep.
Worked perfect. We did that in many places on the car. Any place where we didn't want paint where we didn't want it.
Yeah, otherwise you'd have to spray it and try to wipe it all off with thinner, and that
Never works. Never works. Same way with the air cleaner top. That was done with a hypodermic needle and paint. Just makes it crisp and clean, and
won't wear off easy because it's nice and thick.
Yep. Yeah, it's not brushed in there. We were very adamant that we wanted everything to be clean and neat as possible. So all of the ECUs for the fuel injection, the spark box, all of that stuff is underneath the dash.
Okay.
We we've got an aftermarket air conditioning system. It's a Billet Specialties serpentine belt setup that we put in, and so with the aftermarket heater box, it took about half the space that the old one did. So we had room under the dash to be able to mount that stuff, keep it out of the weather, keep it out of the heat and everything else. So it's worked out very well, and just makes a nice, clean, neat under the hood.
Yeah, it's very tidy.
Setup.
It's very tidy.
Headlights,
I notice, are definitely not stock.
Nope.
I see LEDs.
Yes, they're back when we put these in. The only LED halo headlights were motorcycle, and these are 5 3/4, obviously, because they're stacked headlights. You could find the 7s, but you didn't find 5 3/4 except in motorcycle. And then they had a quartz bulb in them. So my son at the time worked for a place that made LED headlights. So we bought these, took the quartz lights out, and put LEDs in place of the quartz. So we have the halos running all the time. They're a running light. So you've got the 4, so if they can't see me coming, they're blind. So you got the 4 headlights that are on all the time. The whole car is all LED. So all the tail lights and everything on the car are LED. Except, because if you want your blinker to work, you've got to have some incandescent bulb. So the 2 front turn signals are standard old incandescent bulbs, so you got enough draw to make the blinker work.
Yeah.
Otherwise, everything's LED.
Okay.
We have LEDs inside for compartment lights, dash lights. Yep, we've used LEDs in a number of places.
Now, if we close the hood, there you did make one modification to the hood, the scoops.
Correct.
So we should talk about that. There's definitely not a 65.
These are 1969 Plymouth hood scoops. You'll see them on 69 Chargers and Roadrunners and that sort of thing. We thought, because that car's so long, this is a 20-foot long car, we need a little something to break up that long hood. And so they're actually functional. We actually drilled them out, and they actually let air into the engine compartment when they're running down the road. Interior is all custom. We have custom gauges. The dash is completely custom. We took about 3 original dashes and cut them apart and welded them up to make what we wanted. We've got all brand new electronic gauges that make it easy, especially with the speedometer where you can GPS it and set it correctly. We put air conditioning in. This car did not have air conditioning from the factory, and I had a 66 parts car that had factory air. We actually took the vents out of that, cut them into this dash, and had them re-chromed and put in to make it look like a factory installation. Because we have the fast fuel injection system and we don't smoke, we didn't need the ashtray, so we modified it so that we put the computer for the fast system in there.
Okay.
And then if we don't want to see that, which I never put it up, but if I don't want to see it, I can just fold it up into the dash and you never see it.
Nice.
But we put in, we've got all the upgraded stuff to be able to.
Oh yeah, all the modern charging stuff and.
Yes. And had to have cup holders.
Yeah.
So that's a custom console, not anywhere close to the original. The shifter is interesting. When we put in the 5-speed Tremec, it is a top rail shift where of course all your old transmissions are your side shift and they offset. Well, this one comes up through the top, and no one had ever put a Tremec in a 65, so there was no shifter that fit it. So my son, through his work, has access to a 3D printer. So we actually designed and 3D printed that shifter and then bolted it on and, you know, went through the gears to make sure that everything worked and it didn't hit before we built the shifter out of metal. So that shifter you see is built out of a flat piece of steel and cut it out and had it chromed. And then of course you can't have a Mopar without a pistol grip.
Yep.
And the pistol grips come with a plastic grip, and I'm a woodworker, so I actually hand carved walnut to fit my hand for that pistol grip.
Nice. I see a modern radio, obviously.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
although it looks old.
Yes. Yep.
So.
It's and Bluetoothed, and you know it'll whistle Dixie if you want it to.
And gauges, autometers.
Autometers. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Autometer gauges.
Now, as far as the seats and stuff we're sitting in,
these front seats are Pro Cars.
Okay.
And the original seats are a lot shorter, no headrest.
Yeah.
But back in about 02, 03, I bought the interior, the complete interior, from Legendary Auto Interiors. They were making them at the time. And so I had the front seat covers for the old bucket seats. Everything in the back is original. It's original back seat. Everything's original in the back. So what we wanted to do is tie the Pro Cars in with the back seat. So we actually took the seat covers off, cut them up, cut the new seat covers and sewed them back in so that we had the chrome strip in the front seat to match the back seat. And then we had them embroider the Sport Fury into the headrest.
Okay.
That is also what's in the puddle light that shines on the ground when you open the door. It's identical in color. And
is it the same color as the car, since it's the puddle light color? Is it red?
No,
oh.
It's exactly
oh,
that.
Okay. Oh, it's the red, white, blue?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. The other thing we did in here that you won't see on any other Sport Fury is we put the Sport Fury on the glove box. We had an extra one of those, so we sent that out and had it re-chromed and just thought it needed to be on the glove box.
Yeah, you got a lot of black here. It just kind of sets it off a little bit because you got all this chrome over here, and then if you had nothing over here,
yes,
it's all about balance. So.
And when we did the upholstery, we talked about doing red stitching. We had it double stitched. We talked about doing red stitching, and you know what? Nah.
Keep it kind of clean.
We're going to keep it clean.
Yeah. Steering column, factory, not factory.
Oh no,
that figures factory.
Nope,
Look factory.
Nope, that is a what's the big steering?
I did it.
No.
Living River.
Flaming River.
Okay.
Yep, Flaming River steering column. And so it's tilt and the whole bit. And yep.
I'm guessing since you're a woodworker, this is probably you too?
No, that isn't. Actually, that steering wheel came with that wood on it. But because I am a woodworker, if you notice, the armrests are walnut. So the armrests are walnut and my shifter handle are walnut. So that was my little bit of woodworking that I got into my car.
Okay. Nice. All right.
Currently, as of right now, we have about 3,000 miles on the car. We started driving it in summer of 2015.
As always, we took the car for a ride so I could experience how well it performs while shooting the breeze with Steve a bit. Big block power moves this full-size Mopar with ease, and the torque gently presses you back into your seats. As Steve rode through the gears, the exhaust sounded strong and authoritative, but without being overly harsh. Now, I'm not usually a glass packs kind of guy myself, but on this Fury, it works very well. I love that this is a local car. The former dealership building is just a stone's throw away from my house, and it's so great to get to a car where you can walk in its footsteps from when it was new, to where it was abandoned, to where it was reborn. What else can I say here? Steve and his son did a marvelous job bringing back to life a car most people would have just passed on. As mentioned throughout this video, C-body Mopars are full of parts that you have to make, repair, or buy new old stock. Yet the Quick Boys were clearly up to the task on every front, as this is a sight to behold. Everything on this car testifies to their care and craftsmanship, and I am so glad that I ran into Steve's wife at a car show and that she asked me for one of my flyers to give to her husband. If you are a local and you see this car at one of the shows in central Iowa, go up and tell Steve, job well done, man. That about does it for this episode of the show. Please take a moment to like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy our content. And remember everybody, sharing is caring, so if you know someone that would dig this episode, send them a link. If you want to follow us on other platforms or contribute to our crowdfunding effort, the links to everything are down below in the description. Well, until next time, this is Bobby D saying, I hope you're out there kicking butt, taking names, but most importantly, that you're killing with kindness.